Let's now bring in my panel. Mike Lyons, a retired U.S. Army major and a senior fellow at the Truman National Security Project, and Ryan Mauro, a national security analyst at the conservative-leaning Clarion Project. Gentlemen, good to have you both with us. Ryan, let's start with you. President Macron seems to be pushing for a new deal with Iran to supplement the Iran nuclear deal. This new arrangement more focused on the Iranian ballistic missile development. Assuming he succeeds in getting the president to go along with this, what would this new deal need to include to cover all of those concerns that the president has with the deal?
Well, if the leaks to the media are any indication, it looks like there's going to be even more demands now beyond that. It's going to even potentially include Iran's terrorist warfare in the region, the ballistic missile program, as well as the ability of Iran to restart its, or I should say expand its nuclear weapons program in the future after 2025. So it's hard to say exactly whether that replacement of a deal is a good thing or a bad thing without there being any details there. But my overriding concern here is whether a replacement deal prolongs the life of the Iranian regime and its Islamic revolution, because I firmly believe that we don't have to tolerate the ongoing existence of that. That regime is bound to die. I don't want us to save it.
Mike, what do you think? Is there any kind of supplement deal only going to sustain this regime, or could the parties come together with a very serious and credible fix?
Well, I think all of the European allies have to do it as well. It just can't be the United States coming out of this deal. And it looks like the French president wants to be a leader in this regard, looking to try to get other allies together. But I do think the president is pretty, drawn a hard line. And it's likely as of right now, he's looking to get out of that deal on May 12th. So they're going to have to work hard to come up with something in order to make sure that from his perspective, the United States is going to get something out. The ballistic missiles, the four pillars that the French president put together could be a good starting point.
Do you see the likes of Russia and China getting on board with a supplementary agreement?
Probably not, because all of this does have to do with Syria as well. And if one of the pillars is keeping the spread of the Iranian influence down, well, both Russia in particular want to have that influence inside of Syria, have the Iranian influence inside of Syria. So wouldn't be surprised if neither of those two get involved, but the rest of Europe needs to get on board.
Well, Ryan, how about it? Do you see this comprehensive deal, which Macron has alluded to, including Syria, including asking the U.S. to maintain troops there? Do you see it sufficiently addressing Iran as a regional threat? I know you say you don't want to do things that would just prolong the regime, but do you think that there can be some solution that the other powers will agree to that it kind of put a check on Iran's influence for now?
Between the US and Europe, and particularly with France leading, I think it actually might be possible. I disagree a little bit with your other guests in that I think there might be less daylight between the US and France than the media headlines appear to indicate, because Trump did say, and he kind of went back and forth on this during the campaign, between, well, I want to scrap the deal versus I want to get a better deal. And so I could easily see a situation where if we have improved sanctions, we take into account human rights, and we address the argument of whether we're prolonging the Iranian Islamic Revolution and the regime, I could see a situation where Trump comes out and says, yes, I did scrap the deal. I replaced it with a new one. So I fulfilled both of my positions. That, to me, seems like a realistic thing that could potentially happen.
Mike, I see you nodding here.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is you'd have to get the other party to agree. And right now, the Iranians are drawing a hard line. Right. And look, it's bad breath is better than no breath on some level, I guess. You could say that's just the analogy here, because there were a lot of flaws in the original deal. And you see both sides kind of digging in to try to save it. But if we decertify, walk away from it, there's no guarantee that we get anything. Now, and if the Iranians start to enrich nuclear weapons and start to go down that path again, then you've got the Israelis could possibly get involved. They could see it as a threat. So I think they got to really think through all the consequences.
Well, Mike, how much leverage is there over Iran to now bring in these fixes? As we know, one of the major flaws in the agreement is the limited inspections. They're not any time, anywhere. There's sometimes some places, especially giving 24 days notice for military sites. So say this is added to a supplementary accord, and Iran decides to Iran says, no, we're not going to let these inspections happen. What happens next?
Right. The inspections are passive as opposed to being active. That's right. The real problem of this deal is that if the Iranians break out of it, then our only recourse is to go to war or make some kind of military strike. That's what I thought initially when I saw it. All the money was paid up front. That money's been distributed, and that's all out there. That's all in Iranian hands right now, so there's nothing to be going on there. But the bottom line is, if the Iranians say, you know what, we're not going to do the deal, then I'm afraid you could have a very large regional conflict very quickly.
Ryan, what would those military options be for the U.S. and potentially European allies if Iran is adamant that it's not going to cooperate? Or if it turns out that even if it agrees to in theory, in actuality, it reveals itself to not be cooperating?
Well, I think instead of military strikes, except for on Iranian-related terror targets throughout the region, what you're most likely to see if Iran says no is a new sanctions regime put in place that is much tougher. And remember, according to the deal itself, we can sanction Iran for sponsorship of terrorism and violation of human rights. And so a lot of those same entities that Iran says they don't want to be sanctioned and got saved because of the deal, we can hit them indirectly on another basis. And under new intense sanctions, I think, especially if we support the Iranian opposition, we could force Iran to go along with it if we phrase this as being a supplement to the current deal. And look, if you don't go along with it, we have these other options we can exercise that are permitted according to the original deal that Iran signed.
Mike, final thoughts on this? Is there enough leverage?
Well, it's going to take, I think, more than just the United States and France. I think other countries are going to have to be involved. This is also about commerce, selling goods and services from Europe inside of Iran into Iran. That's what they want. The question is whether or not if Europe can stay united on it, to Ryan's point, and to put those sanctions in place if they don't violate the deal.
All right. Mike Lyons, Ryan Mauro. Appreciate your analysis. Thank you to you both.